Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. And I'd like to announce that this meeting of the Seguin Independent School District has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Section 551.043 of the Texas Government Code. And this evening we have some students from Kennedy Elementary from the dual language program. They're going to lead the pledges for us in both English and Spanish.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Lealtad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación ante Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Honra la bandera de Texas. Te prometo lealtad a ti, Texas, un estado ante Dios, único e indivisible.
Thank you, Timothy Sue. What a wonderful way to start our meeting this evening. We're going to move on to Dr. Gutierrez's announcements this evening.
Good evening, board members and Seguin ISD community. Great things continue to happen in Seguin ISD, and I'd like to share a few examples from around the school district. I had the opportunity over the weekend to attend the Destination Imagination State Tournament in Corpus Christi. It was a pleasure to see our 5 Seguin ISD teams compete and have 4 teams, 2 from Seguin High School, 1 from Barnes, and 1 from Weiner, advance to the global competition which will take place in Kansas City in May. Senior Serenity De Leon was awarded a $1,000 scholarship from Texas DI at the state event. Congratulations to these students, team managers, and families for continuing Seguin ISD's rich tradition of DI excellence. More than 20 Batlan Elementary School students will compete in the state archery tournament in Belton on Friday. This team is currently ranked 15th in the state in their age class. There will be a send-off for our Batlan archers on Friday morning at 8:15 at the school. I encourage our community to come out to Batlan on Friday to support these students who will represent Seguin at the state level. Seguin ISD continues to offer STEM Saturdays through a partnership with Texas State University. STEM Saturdays are offered at Barnes Middle School and are free of charge to all Seguin ISD 4th through 8th grade students. 70 to 80 students are attending these fun yet educational events on Saturdays. The district is currently hosting and scheduling community presentations for the May 4th bond election. I would like to thank the Delphian Seguin City Council, Band and Mariachi Booster Clubs, Kiwanis Club, and LULAC for recently hosting me for bond presentations. We held a bond community forum last Wednesday and will host another in this room on Thursday morning from 7:30 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Additional opportunities to learn about Bond 2019 will take place with Matador Stadium tours on April 2nd from 11:45 a.m. to 12:45 p.m. and April 4th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. Additionally, I will share a bond presentation at the State of the District event on April the 15th, 6:30 p.m. at Breezy Meister Middle School. The second annual Seguin ISD Fine Arts Department Art Collage is this Saturday, March 30th from 2 to 5 p.m. Elementary, middle school, and high school students will showcase their talents with fine arts performances throughout the Seguin High School. Donations will be accepted at the door to support SISD Fine Arts Department with a suggested donation of $5 for adults, $2 for students, and under 5 free. As Seguin ISD works through the 2020 budget development process, we will continue to monitor the 86th Texas legislative session and any state funding implications to the district. The business department has compiled all requests for additional budget allocation from Seguin ISD campuses and departments. District administration is now in the process of prioritizing these requests. However, no final decisions will be made regarding the request until an accurate revenue estimate can be calculated for the 2019-2020 school year. Thank you all for your continued support of Seguin ISD.
All right, moving on to board member reports, and let's try to keep it short. Mine's real short because we had spring break in the middle of it. We as a group all attended a TASB presented Team of 8 training. It's called the XG training program. It's our first of, I believe, 6 or 7, and that went very, very well. I was also lucky enough to see the theater department's one-act play public presentation, and I was also lucky enough to attend part of a softball game last Friday night. And those girls they beat Kerrville Tigers. They were number 1 in the district, not anymore. So it was a big comeback, very long game. I had to leave, but I listened to that game on the radio, and I was really excited for those students. This Sunday.
Thank you. I also attended that Team of 8 training, and I also attended the Arts Fest Outstanding Contributor of the Arts Celebration held earlier in the month. Also was present at 2 bond presentations, one at McQueen Elementary and Ball Early Childhood Center. I took in a softball game, and let's see, I attended 2 one-act play competitions for Seguin High School competed. And this past weekend, it was an honor for me to attend the State Destination Imagination Tournament, where I was an appraiser, and 4 out of our 5 teams will be going to globals, and I'd like to publicly give them a hand for that because it's stiff competition here at State. Thank you.
I attended the Team of 8 training. I got to go to a bond presentation at Weiner Elementary. I was lucky enough to see some of our wonderful vocalists at the Noche de Gala competition during Arts Fest. And I got to see our one-act play 3 times, and it got better every time. And so I'm really proud of all the students that were involved in the play and in hosting the competition here. There were lots of students that you didn't see on stage, but they were back there being good hosts to the visiting.
Yes, and shout out to all the parents who helped in hosting that one-act play competition as well. Ms. John?
I attended several workshops, meetings with Seguin, and attended several bond 2019 presentations.
Softball games, budget workshops, also attended the conference at Relay.
I was honored to be the guest speaker at the Sunrise Rotary Club Scholarship presentation in February. I've had my fill of baseball tournaments and also regular baseball games, and now have added the sport of track into my itinerary. I did work. I was also available for at the bond presentation for AJB, McQueenie, and the LULAC presentation. I also attended the Team of 8 training and the state powerlifting meet. We were there as a family to support Seguin Medical Girls over there. And
Yeah.
March 1st and 2nd, I did at the MASA, the American School Board Association conference in Boston. The board was well represented, Dr. Evans, participated in the superintendent panel. The March 7th, attended Team of 8 training. March 8th, attended the walkthrough of Seguin. As far as evaluating, the board evaluating Seguin campus to put 3 programs in there together. March 18th, attended school board workshop. March 19th, attended the bond presentation of Rodriguez, also attended the bond presentation of the last time, last night. And I've been taking some training online on the PEA, to become more familiar with the Texas English language proficiency assessment system, Texas English language proficiency assessment standards, and reading.
All right, thank you, everybody. Moving on to our campus recognition. Mr. Hoffman. I believe Ms. Duncan is going to introduce our first group guest.
Thank you. Well, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's featured campus, Kennedy Elementary School. Mrs. Cindy Moreno serves as principal at Kennedy, and she is proud to share information about her school's first cohort under the two-way dual language program in the Spanish Club. Let's welcome Mrs. Moreno.
Good evening. Good evening, Board of Trustees, President Jimenez, and Dr. Gutierrez. My team and I are extremely excited to share two of our programs from Kennedy Elementary, our Spanish Club and our two-way dual language kindergarten classes. Our goal this evening is to highlight the progress made by these programs and to show our sincere appreciation for allowing our campus the opportunity to pilot this incredible program. We are honored by the assignment and are confident that our first cohort of students are well equipped for their subsequent years of dual language education in Seguin ISD. So we will begin with our Spanish Club, led by Kennedy's instructional coach, Mrs. Maggie Rodriguez.
We have about 20 members in our Spanish club, and we meet every Friday morning at 7:25. So we have a small group. It's a strong group. We learn something. We review many things. We learn colors. We know numbers. We learn regular objects, school supplies, and school things that we see around the school. We also learn small phrases to get the kids started in the Spanish language. We are also teaching the students the Spanish alphabet and the sounds. Believe me, if you want to learn another language, it's got to be Spanish. You learn the letter and the sound, and it does not change like it does in English. So that's the language to use. There are many benefits for learning a second language. Please research that. I have them listed if you have questions later. For the benefits, just the benefits of learning a new language, it really challenges and trains the brain to think in higher levels, and the kids are equipped in many ways. Mrs. Villalma and Ms. Hoffman meet with us every Friday. Let me tell you, they're very loyal to the Spanish program. We're just going to model a little bit of what we do with the kids. Ms. Villalma is going to start us with a greeting, and then we're going to model just one line of our alphabet. Okay? Buenas tardes, ¿cómo estás? Bien, gracias. ¿Y usted? Bien, gracias. ¿Cómo te llamas? Me llamo Vamos a hacer los sonidos. Vamos a hacer los sonidos. Digamos, ¿listos? 1, 2, 3. Oso, oso, o, o, o. Avión, avión. A, a. Imán, imán. I. Uvas, uvas. U. Estrella, estrella. E. Mano, mano. Pez. Sombrero, sombrero. Luna, luna. We also got the kids to match these sounds with consonants to start reading syllables and then words. So they are pretty sharp kids are learning. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Moreno and Ms. Rodriguez. All right, now we're going to move on to students. No, we have the more students, the kindergartners.
We have our video.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our kindergarten two-way dual language has been implemented by our two amazing teachers, Mrs. Yelma and Mrs. Garcia. In this program, students are taught literacy and content in two languages. Instead of extinguishing the child's native language, we are adding a second. Research shows that dual language is the only model that closes the academic achievement gap for English language learners. In addition, it allows participants the opportunity to become bilingual, bicultural, and biliterate in our increasingly global society.
Hablando en español. Primero vamos a contar los meses del año, ¿listo? 1, 2, 3. Enero, febrero, mayo, abril, mayo, julio, agosto, septiembre, octubre.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Voy a dar a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la República que representa una nación ante Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos. Los niños respetuosos, responsables, cooperativos y seguros. ¿Quién? Ahorita hablando español, porque hoy es día de español. No, cada palabra. Vamos a otra vez, cada palabra. Oso, o. Avión, a. Limán, pi. Cuba, cu. Estrella, Mano, Pez. Being bilingual doesn't just give students a voice, it gives them a bigger voice. Ser bilingüe no les da solamente una voz, les da una voz mayor.
I do want to say that all the trustees have had the opportunity to go out to Kinnegad and witness this in person, and it really is quite remarkable to see these kids working side by side and learning these two languages. And I just want to thank you ladies for all the hard work put into this.
want to say that I really appreciate the dedication to the dual language program, specifically two-way at Kennedy, and for really making sure that it was implemented with fidelity in year one. It's certainly a model to look at, and because of the success at Kennedy, we are looking at expanding to the second year. So thank you all so much.
Thank y'all. Thanks for your time this evening. All right, now we're going to move on to student staff board community recognition, and I believe Mr. Hoffman will be leading that discussion for us. Part of the day.
Trustees, this evening, we're going to change it up a little bit what's on the agenda tonight because 2 out of our 3 band students who advanced to state couldn't be with us this evening, so we're going to bump them to the April 30th board meeting agenda. But we do have some of our Seguin High School students here this evening, and as always, it's a pleasure to bring up Dr. Hector Escobar, principal of Seguin High School, and he's going to provide an introduction to these young ladies for us.
Madam President, Dr. Gutierrez, Board of Trustees, I present to you the strongest women at Seguin High School. Unfortunately, we don't have the whole team here, but I'd like Ashley and Reagan to come up, please. And these young ladies are not only strong in the weight room, they're strong in character, in academics, and just about everything that they do. So I want them to talk a little bit about their experiences at the state powerlifting competition. So Reagan, since you're the, I guess you will go first, Reagan.
Okay, so my regional meet went really good. I broke the deadlift record with 415, and I went to state expected to get first, but I ended up bombing out. So it didn't go as planned, but.
She's still by far the strongest pro at our school. So yeah, regionals went awesome. State, I ended up getting 4th, which is a pretty big deal for me. And I squatted. I had a squat PR of 350, which is insane for me. And then I benched 185 and deadlifted a PR of 300. So that was pretty fun. Yeah.
Just want to congratulate Coach Langford, who's not here tonight, with the tremendous job he does with both programs. So he's a big chiefly responsible for the motivation that these young ladies get. So we want to give him a hand as well. Coach Langford. Thank you.
Certainly proud of your accomplishment, and thank y'all for representing Seguin so well. Don't ask me how much I do. Okay.
How many of their parents are from the class of 94? It's almost all of them.
Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Gutierrez, members of the board. Tonight, we'd like to introduce 2 new employees with Seguin ISD. Jolynn, we're going to have Jolynn first. Jolynn came to us mid-year, which is always a hard time of year to come into a school and make her own way. She came to us from Chi Charter Academy out of San Marcos. She's a certified special education teacher as well as physical education. So she incorporated a lot of the physical education piece into what she does with behavior students at AJB. She was in a residential treatment center at San Marcos. Well, she wasn't. She taught at a residential treatment center. But had the experience of working with some very challenging students and was very successful there. She currently serves as the behavior teacher at AJB Middle School. And supports our students in a variety of creative ways. Her principal, Amber Gonzalez, is with us tonight. And she needs to go home because she has a 6-month-old and a 2-year-old. So welcome, Jolynn Anderson.
Hello.
Nice to meet you all, and I'm excited to join the team.
Thank you.
Is there any Yep. And on the other side, we have Mr. David Hall. David is coming to us from Hayes Consolidated ISD. He has been hired as our K-12 math coordinator. You talk about a math background, he's had over 20 years with pretty much any math level there is, 25, district-wide. Specifically, his guru is in Algebra 1, and that is really important that we have that expertise with the end-of-course exams. He's certified, he has his principal certification. He also has a secondary math certification, special education, and an elementary comprehensive 1 through 8. So he's been at the gamut of all levels of school, so we felt he would be a really good support. He too started in the middle of the year, so we said, welcome aboard, see you later. And he hit the ground running. He doesn't have to go home as fast. His kids are 20 and 22.
Yeah. Matter of fact, they're probably not even home yet, so it's okay. Again, I'm excited to be a part of the team and appreciate the opportunity and look forward to making some big progress. This is a great place to work.
We're very happy to have you. Yes.
Thank you.
Tonight is a special privilege to recognize an individual who makes a tremendous impact in Seguin ISD, on Seguin ISD students day in and day out. The purpose of the Superintendent Award is to recognize those who cultivate, inspire, and empower, and this individual does that through her interactions with students and colleagues at Weiner Elementary School. The sense of family she has created within her team is unmatched. A Seguin ISD employee for 18 years, she always exceeds expectations with the food quality in her kitchen, serving line presentation, and by being an incredibly reliable individual. Additionally, she is always willing to take on challenges. She was one of the first child nutrition employees to make the road trip to prepare meals at HEB camp for the Weiner fifth graders. She spent last summer in the heat, grilling burgers and serving exceptional meals to our exceptional children at Park West. She does whatever it takes to put students first and make sure they have the best meal possible. We are proud to have her as part of our Matador family. It is for these reasons that the recipient of this month's Superintendent Award is Weiner Elementary School Child Nutrition Manager, Carrie Frazier.
Nancy, some of us have decided we need some tissues up there every morning. Seriously. Okay, moving on to item number 3, which is audience with the board. The Seguin ISD Board of Trustees designates the time for audience participation at the beginning of each meeting to hear persons who desire to make comments in accordance with board policy BED local. So those willing to speak shall sign up before the meeting begins, stating their concern or noting the agenda item in which to address. Audience participation is limited to 5 minutes. Audience of more than 5 persons shall appoint a representative, and the board shall not deliberate any subject that is not on the associated agenda. And we do have someone signed up for us this evening to discuss special kids with special needs awareness. And I don't have the name. Come on up. Let's see Machado.
Hello, thank you. Good evening, Seguin ISD board members. Thank you for allowing us time to speak on behalf of special kids with special needs. My name is Lefty Machado, and I am the president of this organization. And beside me are my fellow officers and board members. We seem to be missing a few, as you can tell. Special Kids with Special Needs is a nonprofit organization that is led by parents of special needs of special needs children and members that are special needs themselves. For the past 7 years, we've been called Seguin Autism. But as of this past year, we have changed the name to reflect a more inclusive partnership for our surrounding communities in the county. In the past, we have helped grant children with scholarships to camps at Texas State University, horseback therapy, and other much-needed items to help our special ones to prosper in daily life. Special Kids with Special Needs will be helping families not just by supplying families with certain items needed, but also by educating them by bringing in different speakers on subjects pertaining to special needs, helping them feel more confident and empowered when it comes to their special child. Our plans are to invite parents to group meetings where they can socialize with other parents in similar situations. We are here for them to be the support they need without having to travel out of town for help. Parents will have the ability to get what they need without the frustration of filling out paperwork or feeling uncomfortable to ask for help, striving to feel more like family than an organization. This year, we will be hosting multiple fundraising events that get special children, young adults, and as well as parents to become more involved in the community, to teach not just special needs how to cope with society, but to give awareness to the community. Next month will be Autism Awareness Month, and we're hoping to have your support not just by giving awareness to the school district, but also for the future of our special children and parents. In conclusion, our goal is to work collaboratively with the school and community to bridge the gap that our parents have experienced for some time. We also hope to work towards providing the resources our students and family needs. At this moment, we'd like to supply Madam President and Dr. Davis with t-shirts on behalf of Special Kids Special Needs to wear on Autism Day, which is April 2nd. Yes, ma'am. Actually, it's also the month. So, you got it. But thank you for your time, you guys, and appreciate it, really.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is going to closed session. We will be adjourning into closed session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, 551.074, 551.129, which is consultation with legal counsel, including possible telephone consultation with legal counsel as necessary to address legal concerns, implications, and answer any legal questions regarding posted agenda items. And pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074 to discuss personnel matters, including employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of an employee or employees. We will break at 10:04. Sorry, it was definitely I want y'all to know I'm a lot of pain. My back's killing me. I'm definitely not on my game. All right, we're going to reconvene to open the meeting at 7:31. And move on to item 6, which are our reports. We only have one report this evening, and that's on the master schedule development update. So, let's do this.
Hello. Good evening, President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez, and members of the board. I am here along with our secondary principals tonight to share an update with you on the 2019-2020, so it's hard to say, Dr. Gutierrez, master schedule development. We like to present this update annually just to give everybody an overview of the work that we are doing. It's always a little interesting times because we're still finishing out the 18-19 school year, but well on our way into the 19-20 school year. So. I always like to start with this quote. Again, you might have seen it in prior years, and I was sharing with Mr. Schmidt, I always look for a better quote, but I feel like this one really sums up the work that we do with our secondary campuses around the master schedule, and you'll hear that a lot. A school's schedule should be regarded as a tool to further priorities rather than an impediment to change. And you'll see that that quote is from Dufour and Dufour, who are the leaders in the professional learning community movement and the PLC movement, which is something that we've really embraced here in Seguin. And so they understand, as well as us, that a master schedule for secondary campuses really should be about driving change. Unfortunately, sometimes, as this says, it can be an impediment to change. If things are not structured properly, it can prevent us from moving forward with some of the things that we want to do. So we as an LLS department work very hard in putting structures and supports in place to make sure that our master schedule is working for us, not working against us. Our secondary principals, as you see, have, again, a large task in really living in two worlds, living in this current school year and next current school year, or next school year. It's something that is a large task for our secondary principals, and we appreciate all of the work that they do with that to make sure that our master schedule is set up for student success. One of the things that we do as an LLS department to support secondary administrators in this process is we've developed a timeline for master schedule development, and I believe you all have a copy of that timeline. But you can see that this timeline is laid out monthly. You'll note that it begins in October. So already by October, we are starting conversations about the following school year. And every month, we identify goals and things to accomplish in order to achieve our final goal of May. And there are really two things that we want to have happen. We want teachers to know their schedule of courses for the following year. We know teachers like to prepare over the summer. They like to know coming back what they're going to be teaching. So we want to make sure that teachers are aware of what they will be teaching the following year. And more importantly, we want students and parents to know the course schedule for their students. In May, we don't assign teacher names because, again, sometimes people get excited about the teacher, not necessarily about the course. So we want to make sure that parents and students know this is the list of courses that your student is involved in. And so those are our goals in May of every year. And again, this timeline is organized to ensure that these goals are met. We wanted to just hit a couple of the highlights in the timeline and some of the work that is done. And one of the first things that happens in December is the campus administrators work together to determine the number of periods for the school day. And so you'll see an overview of that. And at this point, I'm going to call up Mr. Garza and Ms. Gonzalez to talk a little bit about the master schedule framework for the middle schools.
Good evening, and thank you for having us this evening.
Good evening, everyone. As you notice with us at Jim Barnes and at AJB, what we've tried to do is really come together to make sure that everything aligns at both campuses this year. So when we started to look at it, we decided we're going to go to an 8-period day. The 8-period day, one, allows our students to have an extra elective, but most importantly, what aligns for both our CIPs and district is that we have our teachers are going to have a PLC planning period. Everything that we've done and worked for this year will help us do that. Not only that, but our PLC period in our two areas that we have most of our tested, math and reading, will be aligned together. So basically at the same time, the same period, both AJB and Jim Barnes will be working together through video conferencing with the district, with ourselves, because both our English and math teachers we're going to try our best to put them all off at the same time, at the same period. English in the morning and probably math in the afternoon or vice versa.
And what Ms. Page said was correct. So Mr. Garza and I started these conversations a long time ago, and we looked at to see what was best for kids. And feedback that we were getting from kids was they want to be in everything and do everything, and they couldn't do it throughout the day, and it was hard to get it all done after school as well. And so by adding that extra period in there and giving them another elective, they can be in band, athletic, choir, and theater arts and get the best and become that well-rounded citizen that we want to put forth to the high school and then out into, out into the community. And so by adding this, they're going to be able to get the best of both worlds and have that during the day. And as well as the benefit to our teachers to be able to have that built-in PLC time, because again, after school is a very busy time for many people. We have lots of district, meetings. We have teachers that are involved in athletics, and we have teachers that are involved in other things, clubs and such. And so by building in that PLC time during the day, it not only gets us our core content area personnel that can be there to support them they can also team with each other and work together. And so we just really felt through all of our collaboration and conversations that this was best for our students first and foremost, and then our teachers second, which will then benefit the students as well.
And I'd also like to call up Dr. Escobar to talk a little bit about the high school's framework for next year.
Good evening. So this is our third year with a 7-period schedule at Seguin High School. This is actually, we're entering our second year with a flex schedule. The flex schedule meaning that students can forego certain things like a Spanish class their freshman year and actually take it during that flex time so they can take an additional elective. Or if they're in AVID or in early college high school and they have to take the AVID class, they can actually take during the flex time one of those courses that's slotted for them as a freshman. For freshmen also, this is the time that we use for interventions, the time that we use for also any kind of tutorials for our seniors, TSI tutorials. We're doing a lot of things with our flex time and really utilizing this time to make sure that our students are getting what they need. So we're also opening up next year during flex time for different groups to sign up and get together and have study groups, etc. So we want to begin the process of evaluating the high school schedule. We're actually asking, and I know that we've talked with our teams with CNI, that Dr. Gutierrez maybe explore the possibility of forming a task force to look at the schedule and just look at different ways of doing the schedule because this is year 3, and certainly I believe in evaluating after year 3. So again, the schedule is not changing. Overwhelmingly, our students say no more changes. We need to get used to the schedule. Yes, we have outliers of kids who want to take everything in the world, but life is about choices. And I tell them that, we can help you. We'll personally sit down with you and tailor your schedule and how we're going to do this. We also have 0 hour. We built a lot of things into a 7-period schedule because we knew these things were going to come up. So, but like I said, we're going to evaluate after this year. Hopefully, there is a task force that looks at other high school schedules and alternative ways of doing this. So, again, we will remain the same with just additional activities during our flex time 3 times a week.
So again, before moving on with the timeline, just want to point out that December is when we make these decisions about number of periods of the day, because as you can see, it drives a lot of the work that happens later on with the timeline. Something else that we'll point out is that every one of our secondary campuses, as they mentioned, does have intervention enrichment time built into the schedule. That is a very important thing. That's something that we're very proud of in Seguin, and you don't see in a lot of districts. A lot of districts are still attempting to do intervention enrichment outside of the school day, and again, research shows that that's just not best for kids. It's best to work towards those things while students are there in class. And so our secondary administrators have really embraced that. And it is a challenge. If you've been to the high school, for example, and have 2,000 students moving during that flex time and providing targeted intervention. So all of our secondary administrators have really embraced that process of using that time to provide targeted intervention for our students, and we'll continue that in future years. By January, we have the course catalogs finalized and posted online. Both have been posted online since January. You have paper copies available for you tonight, and you can see just images of the cover. We're very excited that the high school course catalog was designed by a high school CTE student. Our goal is for the middle school one to be done by a student as well, and we're working towards that. So again, you can see by January, though, when we have everything finalized and printed and posted and made available. So we did have things online, but we also have paper copies available for parents as well. Part of the course catalog and part of the process involves 4-year planning and personal graduation plans, or PGPs. PGPs are required by the state. Every incoming 9th grader is required to have a 4-year plan of study, and that's signed by the parents, signed by the counselors, basically just making parents aware. As you can probably tell from course catalog, high school looks more like college every day, and middle school looks more like high school. So it's really coming into high school, parents and students really need to know what they're signing up for. There's a set number of courses that you need to take, and you're pretty locked in. And so we try to make this information as open as possible to parents. We have information sessions with parents to help them understand it. You'll see two different options up here for the PGPs, or the four-year planning. On the left are the four-year planning resources that are available in the high school course catalog. And so you can see 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years. These are the courses that my student would take if I was interested in a certain area of study. On the right is something we're very excited about, and that's an online program called Zello. This used to be known as Career Cruising, which actually explained the program a little bit more. Zello, I always have to say formerly known as Career Cruising. But Zello is an online program that really helps with helping map out 4-year plans of study. There's also interest inventory that happens, career matchmaker, college matchmaker. It's a really rich platform. Mr. Steve Gonzalez, our CTE director, he and I have been working closely to get this platform up and running, and our current 8th graders have used the platform to complete their proposed 4-year plan of study. So we will be having PGP meetings with parents, and we'll be using that platform. We will be pushing that out more to parents. It's our first year, it's kind of a pilot year, so we're sort of dipping our toe into it before we push it out into the community, but our goal every year is to add another group of students who will be using that platform, and we're very excited about it. We think it's going to be really powerful for helping parents and students understand what high school will be about. Again, some highlights for our middle school course offerings. As Mr. Garza and Ms. Gonzalez shared, going to that 8-period day will allow for students to have an additional elective offering. Teachers will also have time to meet as collaborative teams during the school day, and we're really excited about that opportunity for both teachers and students. A highlight from this year that will continue next year is offering an accelerated language support course for our long-term English language learners. Again, looking at data, we have some students who have been in U.S. schools for 4 or more years and are still not scoring on TELPAS at a certain level. And so we recognize that there was a need to provide additional levels of support for those students. Something else you might have heard about in the community is that we combine the 6th grade PE course and the pre-athletics course. The pre-athletics isn't going away. That pre-athletic focus is going to be integrated into the 6th grade course. And looking at course enrollments, the enrollments were very skewed, and there were very few students who were signing up for the traditional PE class. Everyone was really going that pre-athletics route, so we decided to better utilize staff and facilities and just have everybody in that course with that pre-athletics focus. We're excited about that. We will continue to require the college and career readiness class for all 8th grade students. Again, it's a really rich class where students get exposure to Zello, for example, get exposure to interest inventories, learn how their personal learning styles, do research into college and career. The high school really utilizes that class to come in and talk to 8th graders about the high school and help with transition. So we're very excited about that class, and we'll continue to offer that. High school course offerings, we're very proud that we offer 21 dual credit course offerings, and the majority of those are taught by Seguin ISD personnel. So that's something that we are very, very proud of, and we'll continue to offer that. We also have a newcomer language development class for recent immigrants, again, offering additional support that we are excited about. Our CTE programs of study, TEA is rolling out some new language around programs of study and aligning the sequence of courses for each program. Again, Mr. Gonzalez, our CTE director, he and I are working closely with that and making sure that we are putting things in place with our courses to align with the TEA requirements. And our 2 new courses at the high school this year are both CTE courses. We added a Principles of Manufacturing course for students who are interested in the welding pathway, and we added the Engineering Design and Presentation for our robotics program. And you've probably seen from Twitter, our robotics program has really taken off, as is our welding program. They're both very robust programs, so both of these courses were added to just support students in those studies, so we're very excited about that. Our January and February highlights, again, we had the Chart Your Course events. We were trending on Twitter, I saw that, but again, the high school did a phenomenal job in February we bussed over every 8th grader in Seguin to the high school. We had one campus in the morning, one campus in the afternoon. Basically, the mat house was cordoned off, and they had rotations where students could come and learn about different offerings. The high school they put on the full regalia. Everybody was out, students were out, teachers were out putting on the presentations and really sharing with the 8th grade students. Sharing with the 8th grade students what was available. That same day, we offered a parent night, and so the parent night was the same thing. We kept everything up. The party music was turned down for parent night. But we had the same thing where the parents could come and learn about the endorsements, graduation requirements, and CTE offerings. We also offered ECHS, or Early College High School Parent Information Sessions. I know Ms. Garza has recently come and given you guys an update about that, so she had parent information sessions for them as well. We held 5th to 6th grade transition parent sessions. We've really tried to make sure that we cover our bases in terms of letting parents know about some of this important information and important events. And most recently, right before spring break, we had, that was our deadline for all students to register for courses online through Teams, which is our student grading student management system. So as of right now, we have course totals, and that's what we're working with, is the course request totals. And we're working with campuses to now turn those totals into what does that look like for course offerings, what does that look like for staffing. So, and you can see some of that in the master schedule development timeline. I always like to end with a huge thank you, and I always leave people off because this is a massive undertaking. This is a process that involves, again, people up here, people who I've probably forgotten, but it really is an all hands on deck, everybody coming together. It requires a lot of departments, the LLS department, business department, human resources department, the campuses themselves, really just coming together and facilitating all of this to make sure that we build a schedule, again, that supports our students and our student needs. We are excited about the process and open to questions now if you guys have any questions.
I have a quick question. You were talking about the 6th grade athletics becoming pretty, what do you call it? Pretty,
Yeah, so it's a 6th grade PE, but with a pre-athletics focus.
And does it focus on each sport that they could possibly?
That is the goal, yes, is to have not only just a combination of just overall wellness for the student, but also an introduction to the different sports so that students can have an idea if they're interested in it before going into 7th grade athletics.
And is it separated by gender, girls and boys?
Yes, I believe those PE classes, yes, do have the girls and boys, but I know with some of the wellness pieces, looking at that impacts both. So.
And then after 6th grade, 7th and 8th grade, you?
Yes, then athletics becomes an option in 7th and 8th grade.
For all sports?
I know all sports at the middle school. I believe football, basketball, volleyball. I know we have soccer, so track, golf. Yes, tennis. Thank you. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
I have a few questions.
Yes.
When you talk about middle school and the teachers being on by teams, that's by language arts, social studies, math.
I believe that's how they're looking at
Like
for that, yes, for that collaborative time. Yes.
And both grade levels, both the English language arts class is the 7th and 8th grade together?
It'll be 6 through 8.
6 through 8.
Yes.
So our focus was to get all those together. Because right now what we do at the beginning of the year, probably have both campuses before. At the beginning of the year, we work with all 6th grade, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers. So we all understand the concepts. So after Christmas, when we come back, then we work on grade levels. So then now everybody that has an 8th grade student will be able to understand. With this process, we'll have all 6, 7, and 8, so we can stay aligned and 6, 7, and 8. So the new team coming out of PLA, especially, that's going to help them align completely as they go from the training together.
So say, let's just say their conference period or their PLC period would be second period. There would be no language arts classes that entire second period, correct? So then are the kids also going to be sorted out by teams?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do, working on our master schedule, and the team has 40 sports teachers all together, so all not.
Those 4 sports teachers?
Yes.
Are the teachers going to have another period off during the day, or just that one?
No, they're going to have their conference period off, and then they're going to have their PLC period as well. So they'll be able to have that. That period.
Your conference period will be kind of your team, will be off of the team.
Yes, yes.
And so then they'll be able to kind of team up and be able to have, if they have parent meetings that you do, they will all be off at the same time, they'll do that, you know, so instead of 4 different meetings, they can have 1 meeting.
You know the puzzle game, Ms. Mona, so it's very much a puzzle game that they are working on right now of taking their staff, looking at those pieces, and so being able to, we work again on priorities and considerations. So priorities have to happen, and so those are some of the things that they've identified as priorities that will go up on the board first in terms of setting those times.
So I heard Dr. Stiebel say that the flex time at the high school is 3 times a week. Is it the same thing at the middle school?
For us, it's probably both, but the 2 times a week the way we do it right now. We do ours every Tuesday and Thursday, and that starts off, we'll go to first period, and then second period, instead of go to second, they'll go to their intervention group. And at that point, we sort it out, so the kids are going to have their piece and what they're falling behind on, so they're saying, we all need it, try to focus in on it. But it all breaks that down. And that would be possible.
So say I'm a kid that doesn't really need intervention, I'm doing pretty good and scoring pretty well, where do I go?
HEB, you get enrichment, and it was the same way at Barnes. And so the way HEB does it is we do 5-week rotations, and we look at data, and then kids can either exit intervention or enter intervention, but the other kids go through 10 different rotations of enrichment. So they get all sorts of different things, team building, study skills, different computer lessons. We have a lot of who are fine arts and elective teachers that come up with some very creative things that we do.
Your elective teachers, are they going to be assigned a team or a department? How does that work? Or do they not have two conference
They
periods?
do not have to conference times off, which allows the kids to have the 4 electives. And in coming up with this, we really talked to all of our campus staff to see if they were all in agreement for this. Because if we didn't want it to look like some people got 2 periods off and others didn't. And overwhelmingly, every single fine arts person besides the 4 conferences were in agreement for this because they get to get more kids in their program, which is what they want. And they know that the extra responsibilities that are put on the 4 teachers, such as STARS, such as the PLCD, that gives them that time to work on things that benefits the students.
Dr. Esquivel, I have one more question. Sorry. 0 hour. What kind of classes can we take at that?
Right now, we're still coordinating that, but we have tennis, one tennis, we have kids, some kids would rather actually, full road these are freshman course, primarily. The freshmen are the ones that are doing most, they have a class that are most required, so then they take, for example, geography, English one. They have all kinds of today, so we're going to actually front load the class. But if they have to do a lot of work, they can actually go to one of the stores where they can acquire, or they can go down and look around. So that's kind of what we're doing that. And that also works the same as so 2 times a week. They can go ahead and work on that. Because they're doing it on.
Oh, okay, so that's how they can get that core subject area credit by meeting it 3 times a week.
We're also taking a look at some summer bridge options as a possibility because, right now they're utilizing Apex, which I'm sure you guys have heard about, the online curriculum, with a facilitating teacher. But our goal, of course, is to have them as much as possible with a face-to-face teacher. So we're taking a look at, like you said, different course options of elective options and some other things that would free up the schedule. So summer is also a possibility for that as well.
We currently have 78 students enrolled, and one of these that are not enrolled in the schedule as of now. So they're taking advantage of it. A lot of them, they don't do that. So, I mean, it's really to their advantage that they, some of them see it as like, well, I can do it during the time, I can focus on fine arts,
I'm glad you're asking all my questions.
Not only are they doing it online, they also have to be certified.
Yes, right. Good, good. One night. So I hear all this technology stuff going on, the kids are able to do this. So where are we going to do registration online?
Well, so for course selection, I can say our course selection registration does happen online. So the students do go in to Teams, they sit in on a computer, and they register for their courses. So that registration does happen.
Or the
right,
yeah, the
Yes, no, our 5th grade students actually did come. I probably forgot to put that over there.
What about kinder through?
Oh yeah, no, that's differentiation.
That's
Schedule
right.
registration is what I'm talking about.
No,
So.
I think I'm addressing our opening of school registration
That's what we're
to get
talking about.
online.
It'd be nice if we could do that online.
Yes.
Whoever's in charge.
And that's when we sign up people for the PTCs, so.
That's true.
Need them to come to.
We do that all the time. Seriously, you did ask most of my questions. I did have one question about the college and career readiness class, I guess is it middle school?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a required class for every middle school student?
Yes, ma'am. We do require all 8th grade students.
And
to
is
take
that semester long?
It is a year long this year.
Oh, it's a year long?
Yes, this is our first year to do a year long. In the past, it was a semester long course. But again, working with Mr. Gonzalez in particular with our CTE programming, we expanded that to a year long course just to allow for more exposure of CTE programming, beyond that as well, additional programming. That is the course that with master schedule, our high school counselors were very involved in going into that class and talking to all of the students about courses and course options. There's the TSI testing that occurs in that class. So we expanded that to a year to give us more opportunity to dialogue with those students over a longer period of time and give them more time to dig into their interests. Again, there's a lot of things, by the end of 8th grade year, you really have to have kind of an idea of what you're doing in high school. Especially with our early college high school in particular, you have to make that decision. And so we felt it was important to have some more time to dialogue with the students and give them time to do the research and look into interests to make some of those decisions.
Does that count as one of their electives?
It is, yes ma'am.
So they really only have 2 electives?
In 8th grade year, yes, but with this additional piece, then they'll have an additional elective option that'll be, that they'll be able to take, yes.
The additional piece, you mean an extra period?
With adding in that 8th grade day now, yes ma'am. So that will add for an additional elective, yes.
Right.
And really with 8th grade, we saw in the past 2 years that we've offered that college and career readiness course. Spanish 1 took a little bit of a dip. Avid took a little bit of a dip, but we, for the most part, saw that students were able, they weren't able to take everything and, right? They weren't able to do band and choir and, so they were able to take electives, but not as many, with that. So that will be an additional piece they'll be able to do next year.
So at the middle school, your core content teachers teach 6 classes apiece?
Yes.
Okay, so they have 6 preps, and at the high school, they have, do they have also do they have PLC period as well, or just
They
a
do not
conference
have an
period?
additional, they have a conference period which they utilize as PLC time.
Okay.
Yes, multiple times a week, and then they also meet as PLCs before school. Some of the teams do meet before school.
All right. And with the high school, at middle school, they're supposed to pick their course charting. They're going to decide what route they're going to take, what pathway. Can they change their mind?
Yes, they actually can. But with the PGP, if they change their mind, it does have to be signed by the counselor and the parents. So that's why it's really important. We have those PGP meetings in April, the week of April 15th. We actually, again, huge undertaking. Every 8th grade parent is brought into both campuses, and the high school comes down and works with them and schedules meetings for that whole week. And they schedule meetings with every parent because every parent has to sign off on that. And so when that happens in April, if a change is made, then parents have to sign off on that as well, just to make sure that everybody is aware, because it has such an impact on the courses that they can take. So again, gone are the days of students being able to come and say, I want a schedule change on a whim. They really have to know what their plan of study is, and if they're going to change it, everybody needs to be involved because it has a really large
But they can't
impact.
change once they're in high school?
Yes, ma'am, they can
All right.
change, yes, ma'am. And
Does it happen often?
It does, do change. And that's probably why with the college and career readiness class, we're trying, like I just said, we're trying to minimize that. CTE is a perfect example of that. Mr. Gonzalez, he has to know where kids are and what they're coming into. And so for the CTE programming, when you start jumping around courses, especially your sophomore and junior year, it has an impact. And so part of the reason why we've really built in that college and career readiness is 8th grade is look at everything, explore your options, see what's out there. Zello's great, you can play around with it. You can click on a specialization and it'll automatically build in your 4 years of study. So if I want to do, this endorsement and this specialization, these are the classes I would take. Let me read about them. Let me see what interests, what college that's tied to, what career that's tied to, how much money is that going to make me. So if I can do that research in 8th grade and play around with that a little bit and see, well, I want to do this and this and this, but I picked this program, can't do all that. Play around with that a little bit in that class so that by the time you start making these selections, you have an idea of what your courses will look like.
Okay. I think I have Two more questions. So with the high school, there's a lot of CTE offerings, really great stuff.
Yes.
But how many students do you have to have in a class before it makes?
Good question. So we try to operate on the threshold of around 15 students for it to try to make some of those CTE courses, because they are more specialized offerings. Some of them will have lower numbers of enrollment, and so it just can depend on that course. You again, anywhere under 15, under 10 for sure, we tend to take a look at. And again, Dr. Espel and Ms. Fittings, Ms. Fittings is the queen of courses over there, and she can probably give you a better idea of some of the lower thresholds, but they're always monitoring those pieces to try to see kind of what's the low end of the number. But anything under 15, we definitely take a look at.
If we're starting a new program, for example, that's going to require recruiting and time. We'll also look at that as well. And it could be an AP course that, for whatever reason, we offered an alternative one, like AP chemistry, and we need to do like AP biology. We'll look at that as well. If it's like 9, 10, we'll try to have the kids have that opportunity, still so they can take their test and be able to get their 3 hours of credit if they get a 3 credit.
Yeah. Our goal is to maximize opportunities for students, but at the same time being responsible with it as well, and not having a large number of staff with a small number of students. So we always take a look at that very closely.
Okay, so I
Nikki
have
has a
one.
color-coded spreadsheet.
I have one last question. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So at the middle school, since you're going to 8 periods, will the class sizes be smaller? Are they impacted at all, or
about the same?
They'll be about the same.
But the electives, ma'am, will probably go down some.
They'll be
Yes,
a little
ma'am.
smaller.
Yes,
the core
ma'am. I'm looking
classes.
at our numbers already that we have, because we do have numbers already, so we're already looking at it. Some of them will go down to where they were before, so that would help as well. Our core classes are still going to stay about the same. Right now at Barnes we have 905 kids, so that the impact of that and working with those kids through that and the teachers. Like Ms. Gonzalez said, we talk to everybody, let them know who we're going to and the reasons for it, so they're excited and they know class sizes and what we're looking at already.
One more question in the realm of physical education and athletics.
Yeah.
When it comes to 7th and 8th grade, so they
Yes.
have to make a decision at that time whether they're going to do athletics or they're going to do PE.
Yes, ma'am.
And I remember somewhere along the way, trustees, we might have gotten an email or something regarding someone having to make a decision, because I read here that you have to choose 2 sports to play in 7th and 8th grade. Can you speak to the rationale of that and why they can't just play one sport, or do they have to play football if they don't want to play football?
Honestly, I cannot. That's really something that our athletic director drives.
Okay.
I could just say that they're required to have 2 years of physical education. So from a curriculum standpoint, they're required to have those 2 years, and athletics will satisfy that. But in terms of the sports themselves, I can't. But we can.
I talked to Coach Bush about that, I think from that same email. And we are allowing kids to go in athletics, and even let's just say they want to play basketball and they don't want to play football or run track. So they can go into athletics and they would be in an off-season group of kids. They would still do some of the same workouts if it's still, conditioning or something like that. So they can go into, they have to really be in athletics, they have to be in one of those 3 sports at least, because everything, golf and tennis are after school.
Okay.
So as long as they're in football, basketball, and track for boys, or volleyball, basketball, and track for girls, and they can stay in that.
I would just hate for the language in this to prohibit someone to really sign up to play athletics if they're giving that choice. That makes sense.
We can take a look at that language. We update it every year. And so again, we work with the athletic director, like I said, with the large group of people. And so we can look at that and make sure that he reviews that and that is reflective of practice.
Page 9.
Page 9.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Guerra?
Yes.
And I'm guess maybe talking about juniors and seniors.
Yes.
Does the district have some sort of a partnership with like Continental, Caterpillar, and CMC?
They do. Again, Mr. Gonzalez, our CT director, can speak to those in a lot more detail, but in working with him, I do know that he has developed partnerships with them, and they have been coming to work in with CT classes. He's done a really great job of expanding those partnerships and really getting the industry to come into Seguin High School. I believe we're planning a job fair as well, looking to hire our current seniors into summer jobs. So he's done an amazing job of networking with local industry to build that partnership.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay. Thank all of you. Thanks for coming this evening and answering all of our questions, and thanks for the presentation.
Yes, thank you all
Good
very
work.
much.
Good things are happening. All right, moving on to item 7, it's our consent agenda for consideration and possible approval as applicable. The policy local states that the consent agenda shall include items of a routine and or recurring nature grouped together under one action item. All such items shall be acted upon by one vote without separate discussion unless a board member requests that an item be withdrawn for individual consideration. Then the remaining items shall be adopted under a single motion and vote as applicable. So this evening for 7A, we have approval of board minutes, board workshop February 5th, 2019, the board workshop February 7th, 2019, board workshop February 12th, 2019, budget workshop February 26th, 2019, the regular meeting February 26th, 2019, and team of 8 training on March 7th. B is approval of tax collection reports for February 2019. C, approval of proposed budget amendments and financial statements for February 2019. D, approval of donations received February 2019. E, approval for professional development waiver. And F, instructional materials allotment or IMA TEAC certification for 2018-2019. Would any of the trustees like to pull one of these for separate discussion? If not, I'd like to have a motion for approval for all of the consent agenda items.
I move that we approve all of these agenda items.
Thank you. I have a motion from Ms. Moreno, a second from Mr. Amador. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on to our action items. We first have item 8A, which is consideration and approval of the School Health Advisory Council annual report, the SHAC goals, and committee members. Pete, I didn't even see you back there.
I was hiding.
You're hiding behind the pole. Okay.
Not really.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good evening. Thank you, President Jimenez, Dr. Gutierrez. I'm joined tonight by our co-chair, Tracy Williman, and then one of our favorite school employees and SHAC members, Allison Williman. And the mini one. That's right, and the mini one. That's right. So we've got a good team here. So it's the School Health Advisory Council's responsibility and pleasure that we get to come to you every year and present an annual report. And so that's what we're doing here tonight. Just to review, the SHAC is an advisory committee to you to represent the values of the community and the membership roster that we presented for your approval is by rule has to have a majority as parents, and we have that represented. But I want to touch on some things that that the SHAC has done this year, all grounded by our annual goals. And so we have 4 goals that are ongoing SHAC goals. The first one is to promote student nutrition. The second one is to increase opportunities and access for physical activity for all students, staff, and the community. Third is to increase parental and community involvement to include support for coordinated school health and the SHAC. And fourth, to educate the whole child with health and wellness at the center of academic achievement. So those ongoing goals are our foundation and really how we try to set priorities for the year. The SHAC, I think, is very proud of several achievements, but one that we really want to point out first is the recess policy. So that's a prime example of how the advisory committee of the SHAC comes to the school board with a recommendation, and I think the SHAC did just a wonderful job of presenting why that's important, why those values are reflected in our community, and the SHAC thanks you for your support of that policy change. I can, as a little addendum to that, I can tell you that I've been able to present at several state and even a national presentation recently where I highlighted that, and it really is a significant achievement for Seguin to have taken that step. That step allowed us to make that administrative decision to bring Link in, and so it really sets a great foundation for our future academic goals for Seguin ISD. So I see that not only as a community member but as an employer is really a great step. Another notable achievement, and just yesterday I got a report from Bo that the last bottle fill station was installed. So that's really wonderful. So the shack had an interest in being sure that we can promote hydration, because we all know that that's related to academic achievement. And so they started a fundraising campaign to do that. Now, luckily, Mr. Pizzana and Mr. Gonzalez, they figured out ways that we could support that with some local dollars. So every single school has a bottle fill station without us having to do all of the fundraising. So now the fundraising can go to replace additional bottle fill stations. Some of our campuses, as you know, have many buildings, and so for little kiddos to go from one building to the next is not super easy. So hopefully we can have a bottle fill station in each of those buildings so that they can keep a full water bottle on their desk. Yeah, so we can retrofit some units for about $700. A complete unit is about $1,500.
So by retrofit, you mean take the water fountain and retrofit it?
Right, so some fountains, you can use the base of the fountain and just add the bottle fill station on the top. And that's what's been so great to have Mr. Gonzalez be able to figure out where we can save money, and it really, a big thanks goes to our maintenance staff for coordinating all of that. And we're hopeful that, like I said, that we can have, that can become business as normal in the future, and we just have bottle fill stations everywhere as we look to, one, to do right by our environment, and one, to make sure that we promote hydration for our kiddos. We certainly do need one here too, yes. Yeah. So Trayson is here with me, Allison is here with me. We of course would like to answer any questions, and what we're asking for tonight is approval of this annual report, approval and appointment of the roster that we've included as an exhibit. And then we also, as an exhibit that does not need your approval, but it's something that we're also proud of, is that we have established some bylaws that will guide how we operate as an advisory committee to the board. So, is there anything I left out?
No, I think you got it all.
You got it? Okay.
Good job.
All right. See, that's what I've got. It's good. It's good wingman. That's right. So, if there aren't any questions.
Well, I have a quick question. I don't know if it really fits here, but I just have a question about Link.
Yeah.
So, does that fit under this?
It does.
Kind of.
It does.
So this year we've had 2 schools with kinder and first grade, and next year 2nd grade, and the following year 3rd grade, the same kids.
Yes.
As we move forward, are we going to have someone to work with the classroom teachers as they get into the testing grades, just to make sure that they have the support that they need to get all the academics in addition to all the recess time? So it's just something I've been thinking about, and it's a couple of years down the road, I know, but it's definitely a concern, I think.
Right. So I think that it's a good question. Instructional strategies, we're not changing instructional strategies. What we're doing is we're creating a student that is better positioned for learning, better positioned for retention of information, and that learning can happen in a more efficient manner. What there is no question, and this is part of our training, is that the teachers have to be more efficient, and so there is some picking and choosing that has to happen. And what I mean by that is that there might be a few different strategies that you can get to accomplish a standard that we're trying to accomplish. But what we need to be doing is we need to be teaching to the standard, and we need to make sure that our practices are aligned with what is the most efficient and effective way to do that. And so that might mean that some strategies have to change, but at the end of the day, the instructional strategies that are being implemented from our curriculum department are still the same strategies. So does that make sense?
It does.
I've had some questions about that.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah.
Just with the implementation of the new it's bedtime. I know when Ms. Jaramillo meets with the elementary instructional coaches, that's a constant discussion that we're having as we're going through looking at the new TEKS and having that that let's dig deep into the TEKS and really look at that, that's something that does come up and is addressed with our elementary instructional coaches. So the conversation is there.
It's already begun. Okay.
I think that there's going to be some growing pains, but at the end of the day, what we need to make decisions based on is what's best for our kiddos. And what's best for our kiddos based on research is that they need to not be sitting in that desk for any longer.
And your
than
fourth
an hour.
goal reflects that. It
Yeah.
says to educate the whole child with health and wellness at the center of academic achievement. So
Right. So what we have to do is we have to really encourage and support our teachers, and we know that we're asking them to work harder and more efficient, and so that means that every minute that's in the classroom, those kids are ready to learn, and they need to be delivering instruction those kids can benefit from. And when they're not in the classroom, then they need to be outside doing their thing.
And I know the research has shown that it's working. It's just there's a little bit of
And we are keeping track of data locally too. So that's going to be really fun for us to see how our data compares to what we expect it to based on national.
And that data would be shared as well, but there are other districts that are ahead of us as far as the number of years that they've implemented Link. And so we'll have an opportunity to learn from them in a couple of years after they've had some time to work through those STAR tested areas and learn from their struggles and make sure that we don't have the same ones, and also we've been offered the opportunity to also go and visit some of those schools too.
What I anticipate, if I can say one more thing, what I anticipate is that our kids are going to go into those STAR years as more resilient, more relaxed kiddos that are better able to take those tests. And that's something that we really should celebrate. We're going to get away from that model of the night before. We're going to get a good meal and a night's sleep. And what we're going to do is we're going to get to where we get a nice meal and a good night's sleep and plenty of exercise for months in advance. That's how we do things, So
that's a good way to end this. Any further questions? Yes, sir. Yeah.
I just had a quick question. How are the members selected, or what is the selection process?
Yeah, so we've had an application process to try to solicit membership. It's not easy to get parents to come in and be members, and so our bylaws are trying to reflect some new strategies on how we want to make sure that we're representing the community as a whole. But right now, we're still relying on people to volunteer their time. I would really encourage you to think about this a little bit. I know of some districts that each board member appoints a representative from their area, and I think that might be an interesting thing to look into in the future. And we certainly welcome participation from everyone. I think the intention of the SHAC committee to set some parameters with the membership guidelines is to make sure that we, because we're an advisory committee to you, that we are not influenced based on a case-by-case situation, so there could be consistency to the membership, and that brings values from the whole community and doesn't reflect just one pocket. So, yes, please.
Another thing I just want to bring up, all of our meetings are open to the public. We invite everyone to attend. One of the problems that we've run into in P9, we've been talking about this for quite a while now, is, as you can see on our list, trying to get the parents' representation, that's where we're having our biggest problem. We're just not getting that parent, finding parents that want to participate in the SHAC. And so it's kind of limiting us by our bylaws for us to even have a quorum to make a vote on anything. And so one of the things, and I'm glad that we're here in this forum right now, and kind of bring that up, that we need to get more parents to be involved in the SHAC and get them to represent. And if, like Dee was saying, having each of the districts appoint somebody.
Do you meet monthly?
We're required to meet 4 times a year.
Okay.
We meet anywhere between 5 and 6. And so we've played around with that idea. Is it you can meet too much and turn people away. You cannot meet enough and turn people away. So it's trying to bridge that. We've talked about different meeting times, and so we just need to kind of dial it in. I think that sometimes we can get some sensitive issues, and that can bring some people in. But again, we don't want to be based on just the sensitive issues.
Right.
We want to be based on,
reactive.
yeah, right.
Well, right now you have 13 members, so if each of us appointed one, that would be 20, which does fit under your bylaws.
Sure
So
does. Yeah.
And I
definitely
think
something.
I do want to point out that it's not that, in a lot of ways, parents are also, they have obligations to their school serving on committees. Remember, we've got DEIC, we've got task forces in various areas, so there are plenty of opportunities, and that is SHAC is probably a little more demanding than others as far as a time commitment. So that sometimes could be a turnoff, but it's probably not an area that many people are very passionate about as well. So if you know someone who would be interested in serving, please let Pete know. But in addition to that, you really do, as they said, look for that consistency year after year, where many times parents sign up for something, it's for a commitment of a year or 2 years. And so they don't want to make those types of long-term commitments, so that's understandable.
All right. Any further questions? All right.
All right, well, great. Well, last thing, I just want to thank Trayson publicly for his services, Jack. If you don't know Trayson, he's a great guy. So retired Black Hawk pilot, and now is working as a recreation therapist. So he brings all the skill sets that you need to run a group like the Shack. So we're thankful to have him in our community. So.
Yes, thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
move for the approval of the School Health Advisory Council annual report, SHAC goals, and committee members.
We have a motion to approve the SHAC annual report, goals, and committee members. Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Crittenden. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. 7-0. Okay, moving on to item 8B, which is consideration of approval of the interlocal agreements with the City of Seguin for the Latchkey Program, day camp, and facility use.
Good evening again. Tonight I'm here with, where are you?
I'm on your right.
The Director of Parks and Recreation, Jack Jones. He's with the City of Seguin. We are coming to you again for our annual approval of our interlocal agreements in 3 different areas. The first is the Latchkey program, and that's the after-school program that we have at all 7 elementary schools as long as we have 10 or more. We struggled with one campus one year, but we're still right now able to offer at every elementary school the after-school. It's a paid program. The second is the day camp, and let me go back to that Latchkey piece. One thing we are going to do that's new this year is we are going to apply for the second year, and hopefully we get accepted for the 21st Century Grant, which is that ACE. It's an ACE grant for after-school program for non-paid students, which would expand some after-school intervention time, recreation time, enrichment time. And this year we're going to partner with the city when we write the grant. So their grant writer and our person are going to work together to hopefully have a robust application and be accepted. So it's a neat partnership that we're going to work on together. So that's the Latchkey program. The day camp happens during spring break and in the summer for those working parents that aren't off. So we have a facility identified for the day camp. It's AJB. The spring break was Rodriguez Elementary. The day camp in the summer will be at AJB Middle School. And that way students will have a place to go. They totally staff it, they program, they run everything. We just provide the facility. So those are pretty standard across the board. The next is the facility use agreement, and that's primarily with athletics with the exception of one facility. So there's 4 that we are going to work with the city again. The one that does not deal with athletics is Park West. It's at no cost to the district, but it's for the summer feeding program. But we put it on there because it is a partnership. They're letting us use that facility, in which we recognize Carrie Frazier tonight for providing those meals during the summer, and it was super popular. Last year is a great venue, so that's one area. We're gonna continue to use Starkey Park for the cross-country, and that's at a cost of, I think, $150 for a cross-country event. We got a little discount on that because we do the setup, and then another school will use the same setup the following weekend. So our coaches get to go out and use that beautiful venue for the cross-country event. The third is the Starkey Golf Course. We have some detailed information in your packet on the cost of that. The cost has not changed at all. And in looking at other districts, we have a pretty decent cost for our students to use that program. There are some restraints, like on Saturdays it has to be after a certain time, and during the school week there's certain days that they can go out and participate. So, and there's fees by the bucket, balls by the bucket, and those kind of things. But they're pretty fair for our students, and at least we don't have to go far. We didn't want to have our students driving to practice. So that's the third one. The last is Smokey Joe baseball field, and that's going to be a little bit different proposal this year for the board to consider. The last several years, as you know, we're looking at that whole piece with Seguin High School baseball complex. But the last several years, we've paid. The only thing we have paid was the lighting of the facility, and that was around anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 for an annual cost to pay for the lighting. And the city pretty much took over everything else, or took care of everything else. We did some of the seeding, we do the chalking, but they do all the mowing, they did all the watering, and they did all the maintenance of the facilities. With the city, Jack and I have talked a long time with Travis Bush and Dusty Britton, the baseball coach, with James Pizzana and Bo. The city has offered us an opportunity this year for us to take it completely over from September to May by ourselves. And one of two, the reasoning is the city didn't have some of the maintenance or manpower they're going to do what it takes, but nobody was using it in the city. It's a school district use. So it was done to the best of their abilities. There's some things that our folks would have wanted to see done differently, but with the manpower and the cost, the city, it wasn't cost effective for the city to do that. So when we talked about us taking it over, we would basically be taking over inside the fence. We would mow, we would still chalk, we would weed, but we would stay on top of that, and we have 2 designated grounds workers that we would be able to use to make sure that facility is top condition, ready to go. Jack said that during the watering piece, it comes from the pond at the golf course. It's siphoned from that area, so our pump from that area, so we can make sure that the watering is spot on when we seed. That way, when February turns around, it's green, it's smooth, the holes are gone, and it's a nicer venue. And then we turn it over to the city after May when they do their summer events, and we turn it over in really good condition. So it's a 1-year trial period to see how it goes. The cost will change. We will go from the lighting costs to no more lighting costs, but about whatever the cost will be to maintain the inside. And we've talked to Bo and James, so we're looking at anywhere between $8,000 to $10,000 it would cost us to completely take over that facility. And that really goes toward labor time, because now we're going to be having mowers out there, we're going to have gasoline, we're going to have the chalking, we're going to do more weeding, we're going to do more time to take over that facility. Now, they would completely take over, they would make sure everything outside the fence is fine. The bathrooms, the trash, the scoreboard, everything outside the fence. But putting dollars to what it would take manpower-wise, we felt like that was an estimate of what the time it would be for some of our maintenance crew to take over that field. The coaches feel like it would be a benefit to our players because it would be a nicer venue without some of the weeds or holes that sometimes they have to fix. So that's the big change this year. And again, it's a one-year recommendation. So if it doesn't benefit us or benefit the players and the coaches, then we would come back to the drawing board. Is there anything you want to add?
The intangibles of that is the high school kids can come out, Coach Britton come out and maintain the fields anytime they want to. You gotta get that buy-in with the high school kids, and you gotta get that home field advantage. the field could be maintained at the coach's level of maintenance. It could be faster. If it's a fast team, they can have the grass grow taller, and if they want to bunt the ball, you can make it a home field advantage. So these are the intangibles that we're going to talk about.
So this would take, So this would be starting September 1, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, aerate that field as soon as possible.
The $8,000 to $10,000, we're paying the city that?
No, that's what it's gonna cost. We're not paying the city any, yes.
Yeah,
That's
that's
our labor cost that we've calculated. What is it gonna cost us to take it over? That's our labor, our equipment, our gasoline, our manpower. So that's what we estimated, roughly through what the mayor's office.
And then you said outside the fence, the new scoreboard, the parking lot, the bathrooms are inside the fence.
Well, it's on the ball field
Inside the
fence.
ball field.
Got it.
Like, we don't have the manpower to go check trash and clean the bathrooms, and so the city will still take that piece on.
We maintain the lights, we maintain the bleachers and things like that outside the ball field itself. It's field of play, so to speak.
And one quick addition, the fall ball, you know how kids that play select play fall ball.
Right.
Normally they played at the Little League field. Well, if they take this field on as their own, the coach of that program will be able to use that facility. So they'll be in the field during the fall program and during the spring program.
Just kids from Seguin
Just
High School
just
that
Seguin.
play ball.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Jenkins.
That's my question too, is you're gonna maintain liability insurance and insurance on the ground, stuff like that?
It's a joint situation with cities, with the school district and the city. We have insurance, y'all have insurance, and it's part of the agreement that this insurance covers.
And the fall ball team that organization has to be able to show their proof of liability.
Yeah, because it's not part of the school district, it's separate.
So have you contacted any of the fall ball teams to see if they would be interested in doing
That's up to the athletic side. When Coach Britton works with whatever coach takes over, then they start working on their schedule. It would be changing venues from the Little League field to putting back advantage of playing on Smoky Joe.
Yes, sir, Mr. Gaddam.
This would apply, I guess, to the latchkey program and the day camp. Is the city, I think I read somewhere that they do provide some training for the city employees, because these are the children that attend the school, and they're from 3 to 6.
Mm-hmm.
So the city employees are the ones that are going to be running the whole
They
program?
run the after school program, yes.
Okay.
K through 5.
So they get training on security and safety and so forth, similar to what we do with the district.
I know we have a recreation superintendent who works with the principals, and we get those instructions about keys and things like that. That gets passed down to the leads that are each of the 7 elementary schools. I'm not sure the exact training they get, but I know we work close with the principals.
But they wouldn't go through a normal safety training like Alice that our school district employees go.
Well, it's just for 3 hours, but I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if there's anything in place to at least just in case something were to happen.
But they have their basic safety. They know the fire exit. They know where the fire drills and the fire exits would be, and then where the closest exits and entrances are. Basic. I don't know if any of them are CPR certified or not.
We are CPR certified every 2 years. We work with custodians that are still there, and the cafeteria workers are still there, so we work with them closely after school.
And we're on, I think, 22 years with the last
22
year.
years. Yes, ma'am.
It's a great partnership. Any further questions? If not, do I hear a motion for approval? Okay, Mr. Amador has made a motion to approve the interlocal agreement with the City of Seguin for the Latchkey Program, the day camp, and facility use. Do I hear a second? Crittenden, all right. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. And Mr. Jones, it's a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thanks for being a great partner. All right, trying to see if there are other people out there who might want to go home. Should we take a break? Y'all want to take a 5-minute break? Everybody, okay, 5 minutes. Let's try to be back here at 8:41. It is now 8:36.
We are asking for permission for the superintendent to have hiring authority for our certified teachers. Administrators and directors would still be brought to the board for approval. This would just be for the classroom teachers, certified teachers. It's competitive out there. It's touch and go. It could be within a phone call to get somebody on board, especially when we hit July and August after that penalty-free resignation timeline. It is really cutthroat. We're like buzzards circling employees. So time is of the essence. What we would still continue to do is provide you information in the update. But if the board would like, we could still do an information item with the new hires, so at least you know who we're bringing forward. So at this point, we're asking for that permission.
Any questions? Okay. All right, Mr. Amador is, yes, Jenkins. Oh, you have a second. Okay, Mr. Amador is asked for approval of the motion to grant the superintendent hiring authority for certified personnel during the recruiting season. I have a second for Mr. Jenkins. Any further questions or discussion? If not, for approval, everybody raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Moving on to item 8D, which is, oh boy, the first reading for consideration or approval of the TASB policy update 112 affecting legal and local policies. How'd you get so lucky, Mark, to present this?
Only a
Yes.
small book here. So what we wanted to do is just provide an overview of the step-by-step process of what we do when we have a policy update. Because this is new for the new board, we want just for y'all to become familiar with the process that we take to ensure that we're doing our due diligence and we're not just asking you to adopt policy that no one's reviewed. So as you all know, this is our local level. You all choose what that looks like based on TASB's recommendation and our review of each policy. As a local governing board, you all have control of that local policy. It is then our responsibility to implement federal and state law where we don't have control, but we have to make sure that that gets implemented. So from the bullets here, you can see that the superintendent then develops through his discretion or through the designee's discretion our procedures, and that's what becomes our administrative procedures at the district level. And then at the campus level, the campus principal or that designee both follows the law and then create their own campus level procedures. So that's just kind of how we work down from the local policy level that you all adopt, the state and federal that we must implement as a non-negotiable, down to the campus level. When we get these policy updates, we receive three pieces of information. The first one is the information sheet. And so when you receive this book, it is the first page on here, and it pretty much is just saying, this is the code. These are the types of policies, whether it's legal or local, what action needs to be taken, and then any notes. And so, for example, for update 12, which is up for first reading or consideration, if you all decide to take action on today, you can see what is being updated. What is in yellow are the local policies that we must approve. What is not highlighted is the legal that we must implement. So that is the first sheet. The second set of information that we receive from TASB is changes in the policy. So again, they advise us, and then we either approve or change it. We verify the policy. We make sure that it follows what our standards of practices are, and then we make sure that we provide any information in an update to you if we decide to change that for you. And then finally, in the back of the book, or the remainder of the book, is the actual wording of what the policy now reflects. So those are the resources that TASB provides us with. Here's the step-by-step. Again, we set a timeline. So that timeline comes out of my office with the support of Monica Polasic.
we create a timeline in which we give each member of the SLT the policies. They review those that apply to their department or their program, and then they decide that we either move it forward for your recommendation for approval as is, or we need to revise it. And so that happens over 2 to 3 weeks usually, so that we can review it. Once we do that, you will also receive the copy of the packet. We try to give you all about 3 to 4 weeks usually. I think this time we had about 3 weeks to review this, and that's kind of the timeline that we try to stay on. At the regular board meeting like today, then you have the opportunity to review it and adopt it. You also have an opportunity to wait to the following meeting to adopt it. As we go down the step by step, after the update is presented to the board, we notify TASB, and we say that we have adopted this policy. We show them any edits or whatnot, and then they give us a stamped copy of that, and it is then uploaded into our online board policy. I did want to show this to you all. A lot of the policies that we adopt, we take TASB's recommendation because they have the legal experts that are going to protect both the district and the students, and of course all stakeholders. But there are some things that are unique to the district, and the way you can tell is by looking at the lower left-hand side of each of the pages. And so the A at the bottom of the page next to where it says local-A, that is TASB language that has not been edited by the district. If you see an X on it, that is unique to the district. And so as you're going through policy and as you're reviewing policy, that is one way to tell whether we adopted it as is or we had some changes to it. And then, like I said earlier, we have to document that you all reviewed the policy, that you approved it in the meeting minutes, and then it gets finally uploaded onto our online website so that everyone has access to the policy. Again, I just wanted to provide a brief update of the process so that you all feel confident that we have reviewed it as an SLT and that every assistant superintendent or appropriate designee has reviewed the policy, and when we provide it for approval, we feel confident that we can follow it in practice.
Typically, this is something that has gone under consent, but being that we have new trustees, we thought it would be important to outline the process that we go through when we are adopting policy. Again, it's an extensive process. The language does come from TASB Legal, but the team all has an opportunity to look at their appropriate areas to ensure that our policy, that our practices match policy. And if there are some things that we feel like we need to ensure that our practices are aligned with policy, then we'll pull out that item and make sure that the language is reflective of that, and we'll have examples coming up here shortly.
Any questions? So these are, a lot of these policy changes came out of recommendations from the last 2 year ago legislative
Correct.
session, so it takes that long.
Exactly, and so that's important to note, especially knowing that we are in a current legislative session. We know that this will have, we'll have update 113 fairly soon, but even now, this is from the previous legislative session 2 years ago. I find the pages that are most helpful is the ones that are either the strikeout right in red that has the new language in blue. I think that's really helpful.
And that comes directly from TASB that way?
Correct. Yes, ma'am. Yep, there's an example right there.
So this changes in all the districts, state of Texas.
Everybody who uses CASB, which is mostly all the districts, you'll see the same language. Yes, sir. And then if there's going to be any changes, they have some sort of procedure the way we do.
and we can adjust it as needed for our own values. And again, we only do that for local policy. The legal policy we just implement.
So do you all feel confident in moving forward with this, or would anybody like another month to take a look at it? This is considered the first reading. We can either approve it this evening or we can wait till next board meeting. Does anybody need more time? No. Do I hear a motion for approval? Mr. Amador. Mr. Amador has made a motion to approve the TASB policy update 112, affecting legal and local policies. Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Duncan. No discussion? Everybody read their big yellow Bible? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you. A lot of hard work went into that. Item 8E is the first reading for consideration or approval of local district update, LDU, DDC.
DDC local. Yes, Mr. Garrett, this goes in line with what you just asked. So this would be, we are bringing a policy forward for consideration of change. It's a local policy, and this is a perfect example of how we can make it our own and make it beneficial to our employees. So if you look on page 4 of 7 on the policy that we're looking at, this has to deal with employee sick leave and the sick leave bank and extended leave. Our current policy only supported the employee. So if an employee was identified with a catastrophic illness and they belonged, or they qualified for extended leave, or they belonged to the sick bank, then they could go out for extended period of time. And let's say they were out of days, then they could go out for extended leave. If they use those 20 days, then they have 20 more days of sick bank leave to help with whatever they're dealing with as an individual. What we've come to see is that some people have to be out to take care of a mother, a child, a husband, and we reviewed policy around the area, and it's kind of hit and miss. Some keep it for employee only, but a lot of them do the employee and employee family. So we've had some employees experience a son with cancer, and they are out of days. So they're part of the sick bank, but we couldn't give them the days. And even our own employees could not go, well, I'll give them my days. You can't do that. So what we're doing is expanding our verbiage to say employee and employee's immediate family. And in policy, there is a definition of immediate family, so we would go by that definition. And this just is another benefit for our employees to know that they're supported, and that if something does happen, that they will have the days to either take care of themselves or an immediate family member. To be part of the sick bank, though, when they're upon hire, and every year after that, every employee is notified if they're not a current member of the sick bank, what that entails. And you have to give up 1 day. Let's say a brand new teacher's hired, they get 10 days. They give up 1 day, 1 year, every year for 5 years. So that's 5 days that they give up, but they do it in 5 years. After that, they're vested, and they don't give up another day after that. I've been here now almost 15 years, and we have not run out of days in our pool, so it stays pretty healthy. So there's always enough days to cover folks on that leave. The other change is right below that, what we're looking at, or is the second sentence that's underlined. We've experienced now with our technology and support for illnesses, and again, it has to be catastrophic. We had a teacher call and said, can I take sick bank because I have a pink eye? That's not catastrophic. It has to be very life-threatening. So we've had teachers experience now that maybe they have been identified with cancer, but they're able to have treatment and go to work, and they want to work. They want to get their mind off their illness, but our leave wasn't allowing that. It had to be continuous that you're out, because you have to be that sick to be out. We wanted to add verbiage in there to make it intermittent. So a teacher could come back to work. They could go do 2 days at MD Anderson, get treatment, recover, come back to work. So it's a benefit for the employee, but in the long run, our kids are benefiting because their teachers are in the classroom. So this is a feel-good policy change, because I think we're really expanding some benefits to our current employees. So But this is an example of how you make it your own. And we still follow legal, but now we can make it our own to support our employees.
Any questions? I think this is a very positive move, yeah. So do I hear a motion to approve local district update DEC at this time?
I move that we approve local district update.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Moreno. Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Crittenden. Any further questions or comments? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you.
One final comment, based on really what Mark presented, and something like this, you might well say, how do employees know? Because sometimes they don't know. So at the beginning of the year with the handbook, any policy changes that were in effect will go into the front cover, and we'll make sure we highlight that so employees will know what the policy changes were.
All right, moving on to item 8F, which is the first reading for consideration of or approval of the local district update IEC.
Good evening, Board President Thomas Jimenez, members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez. I'm going to piggyback off of what Dot said, and we are going to talk about another local policy. This one is EIC local, and we'd like to be able to talk to you about some proposed changes. As you can see from looking at the exhibit, this is a 5-pager. Really what we're trying to do after working with Carol and Austin out of TASB, we've received some guidance and we're working in the capacity to make the practice match the policy. Right now, we talk about consistent application for the graduating class. Basically what we're looking at is class rank calculation. We're really getting into the topic of what grades do students need to be in to be able to receive GPA weight for their high school GPA. Basically, if you scroll down a little bit, Bill, what we're really looking at trying to do is to change the language where it says calculation. We would like for the district to include the calculation of class rank, semester grades earned in courses, in grades 9 through 12 only. So what I'm getting at is we do offer courses for high school credit that 7th graders taking algebra, or 8th graders taking geometry, students taking Spanish. In the past, we've had courses like health and such that would apply. They're basically our high school courses. What we're wanting to do as a district is to really try to, when you look at students and the opportunity to take high school level courses, we want to increase those courses, increase those opportunities at the middle school level. We feel that by one way to do that, when you look at the maturity, when you look at middle school students in general, we want for them to be able to have the opportunity to take these high school courses, but not have it impact their GPA. So basically, the courses that I've mentioned earlier, the students would get the credit if they pass the course, because what we really want for students to do is to be able to get credits, to clear room in their schedules when they get to high school, to go on to be able to take advanced level courses. And we feel that this is a good way to be able to do that. So one of the changes is going to be, we're proposing that the only thing that will count for GPA weight are courses taken in grades 9 through 12. If you go down a little bit further, Bill, we're also talking, we get into students graduating, you can leave it, you can go down a little bit more. We're talking about students being able to, there's other exclusions. And one of those exclusions would be, right now, if a student takes a course in summer school, it does not apply to their GPA. What we're looking to do for this freshman class right now, which is eventually going to be the class of 21-22, we would like for classes that they take in the summer that are TEKS-based courses to be able to count into their GPA. An example of this is the problem-based learning class, the aquatic science that Art Thompson teaches this in the summer. We feel like that is a good course. We feel like at the time provided it does meet the nature of the TEKS, and students should get credit for a course like that. We also started looking at, we have MOUs with the TLU, and we have MOUs with Alamo colleges because of our dual credit. I say, a memo of understanding, I'm sorry about that, thank you for the clarification, to where if a student takes a course online in the summer, they could also get credit as part of that dual credit program. We feel like this will benefit our kids, it will open up additional opportunities for them. And really when you look at it, with the summer school option and the whole really students not being possibly penalized for taking an academic risk such as taking Algebra 1 in 8th grade, we feel that that is definitely in the best interests of our students. You can go down a little bit more, sir. This local policy also basically shows the multipliers, which would stay the same. As you know, our AP dual credit courses right now are multiplied by 1.1. That means students do get a bonus, they get extra credit for taking advanced courses. Pre-AP courses, it's 1.05, and a regular course is multiplied by 1 when we calculate GPA. In blue, it says the district shall record unweighted numerical grades on student transcripts, just changing the language. Really what we're trying to do is to kind of streamline the document. Doesn't necessarily have to be 5 pages. We want a little bit more clarity and definitely want to have something, a document that will impact the greatest number of students. Any questions about the proposed changes to this local policy?
All right. I have just a clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
What is an example of local credit courses?
A local credit course would be sometimes we may have like a course that English language learners take. They're not ready to be in an Algebra 1, so they might be in a math ESL class. Yeah, so they don't get credit, but it helps them. Local credit basically is things that the high school or the district puts in place to support student learning.
Ms. Crittenden? We have students that are dual enrolled at TLU as well. They can take classes over there during the school year. Are those weighted like the
That's
dual
considered
credit?
an advanced academic course.
Okay, so if you get the same multipliers.
If they're taking a college level course, it would be that 1.1.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are the AP classes and the dual credit classes typically the same difficulty
Really?
level? I kind of hear that
That's
the
a great
AP classes
question.
are
In Seguin ISD, we're an early college high school district, and we also offer AP courses. Both courses receive the same multiplier. It's a controversial question, because really what happens at the end of the day, as Ms. Page said, we offer close to 22 dual credit courses. I think it's 22 dual credit courses. And then we also offer a host of AP courses. What it comes down to is the rigor that the teacher puts in the classroom. I mean, if you're in a dual credit class, you have to have a syllabus that is basically signed off on by the college. If you're in an AP course, College Board has to do what they call a course audit, and they have to sign off on your syllabus. So what it comes down to is if you have a teacher that is pushing the rigor, then it's very safe to say that they're this. If you have a teacher that is maybe a little bit more lax, whether if it's the AP, if it's the dual credit, then you're kind of really at the mercy of the instruction that's taking place there. I do know that there are other districts that have different standards in place. Some places give different weights based on that, but I can tell you that the majority of our students take the dual credit option here. Not to take away from I'm a big proponent in AP and College Board, but this is a lot more students enrolled in the dual credit courses here. The AP opportunity gives you basically the chance to take courses out of the state of Texas if you achieve a certain score on your test in May.
What is the percent, how many AP courses do we have at Seguin High School?
At this point, and I can't tell you exactly right now. I do know that we offer AP English courses. Basically, they're going to be able to take English 3 and English 4. There's going to be a couple of mathematics, calculus AB that they can take. We're probably right now somewhere around 10 courses or so. Am I off, Ms. Legore?
He's working.
No economics. No economics.
Yeah, and I can tell you that there's about 30 that they offer total. A lot of it comes down to, who's teaching the dual credit courses, who's has taken the, you need to be certified to teach it by spending.
But I was
summer.
talking about just AP, not.
Right,
okay.
right. So it's, and I can get you that, but it's close to 10 or so.
And so what's the percentage passing on the AP classes?
We struggle. I can tell you that we had about 115 or to 120 or so students take tests last year. And we depending on the course, a lot of times it's 30-40% of the kids are passing. Nationwide, you do good if you're in the 60 to 70 range. So they're rigorous courses. A lot of places have other things in place where some districts will pay for students to take the AP test, which is like a $93 test. So they don't necessarily care about the scores as much as they do, let's get these kids to take the test, because there's evidence that shows taking the test can help you be more successful in college. Of course, a lot of that evidence comes from the College Board. There's other evidence as well, but they are rigorous when you look at
I just want
nationally.
to make clear, so you're talking about passing,
The AP.
Making it 3 or above.
making it 3 or above to get college credit,
Mhm.
not just passing the
Right.
course.
Yeah, making it 3 or above.
And then some states, if you want to go out of state, you have to contact your local university. They may possibly take dual credit. Many of them will not, but we tell everybody you need to check with that university out of state to see. And then I can tell you that other universities out of state, they may say, this is Stanford. We're not going to even take it. We still want you to sit for chemistry, professional level chemistry. Other people may say you have to get a 5. A lot of schools may say a 4. In Texas, they passed a law a couple years back, basically saying that if students got a 3 or higher in Texas, they would have to get some sort of credit.
So then we take the other side, which is a dual credit class, college, taught by a teacher. What's the passing rate on that? Those kids
So
passing
dual
those?
credit, you don't have to sit for an annual test like you do in May every year for AP. In dual credit, if you pass the course, then you're able to get credit in the state of Texas. I can tell you that it's higher. It is higher. And we have more kids taking it, but as far as the actual percentages, I'd be glad to get that information for you. That's a great request. I mean, you see that we have kids taking TSI, which you need to take prior to being able to take it. We have the teachers. Teachers have to have 18 hours or a master's, 18 hours in the content area. We're a pipeline. The data shows that what we're doing in Seguin, when you look at compared to the state, we have more kids taking TSI. We have kids getting higher TSI scores, and we have kids going in sitting for the dual credit classes. I mean, you've seen our numbers. We've talked about our numbers, like for the associate's degree, which was, we had last year, it was 31, was it 30?
30.
Yeah. And that, we still have a ton of other kids that got 3, 6, 9, 12, 20 hours, and all of those other students that did get credit in the state of Texas. So it's kind of like, the tough part is that I like to talk about them as, I want them to be dual systems, dual pathways, not dueling systems. And a lot of times they kind of
end up being dual.
It kind of ends up being a dueling sort of thing, where an AP teacher may be kind of old guard and say, AP's the way to go. Well, a dual credit, people might go that way, and it's really about multiple pathways for students.
Okay. That answered my next question.
Any other questions? So the first, the students that are freshmen now will go under these changes, correct? That they'll get credit for summer school and things like that. They graduate in 20,
Yes, it's
22,
the 21,
do the math.
22 class.
Okay,
Right, yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
all right. Any further questions? Do I hear a motion to approve the local district update EIC? So moved from Mr. Guerra. Do I hear a second? Second from Mr. Amador. Any further questions? Okay, I'll approve. Same. Hold up your right hand, please. Opposed, same sign. 7-0. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8G, which is possible approval of design services for Seguin ISD baseball and softball complex, which would be an RFQ number 1909.
Yes, good evening, President Jimenez, members of the board, Dr. Gutierrez. In March, as you read through the information here, early March, March 1st specifically, we submitted or started the process for a request for qualifications for design services for a softball and baseball complex in the hopes that we can have a design that will complement, not wanting to be presumptuous, but in the event that the bond passes and we have a stadium, there's going to be an issue with the practice fields that are out there. There's a master plan effort that is involved under the current contract with the stadium, but what has been brought up and discussed on a couple of occasions is the opportunity to instead use that area for a softball baseball complex. And so with some design, we can have that ready to go, and that's what this is about. Happy to answer any questions on the process or what would happen from here.
Any questions?
So you're recommending
Pfluger, correct.
Okay.
Pfluger Architects, they are the architect that was selected as well with the stadium. They've already completed the design on the stadium. And that was really all of the firms, as is mentioned in the text, all of the firms that we interviewed were quality firms. So the distinguishing point with Pfluger is the history we have with them, especially on recent projects. That, in addition to the fact that this project, should it come to fruition, is going to be very closely tied to the stadium project. And so there may be an opportunity for some cost savings on the construction administration side. Maybe. We have to, but the possibility is there.
So am I trying to read in between the lines here? So if the bond does pass, then we'll move forward with this? We don't know.
I'll have to look at funding, yeah.
Well, I think based on our conversations in previous workshops as we were preparing to bring this resolution to y'all, I think we had some discussions and considerations as to whether or not we wanted to include the softball and baseball fields. And I think it's fair to say that we felt like we'd like to complete the high school as an entire package. And so in an effort to be prepared and to be proactive, but to also show the community that we are listening to them, because there have been a lot of questions surrounding the baseball softball complex. We wanted to be prepared to have some serious conversations should the bond pass May 4th.
If this is approved this evening, what is the next step?
So this would offer administration the opportunity to negotiate with the architect for those design services. It's not a commitment. There's no financial commitment. The actual design, the cost of that would be associated with the estimated cost of construction. So at this point, all we would have an opportunity to do is meet with the architect, have some concepts in terms of what we think the area should be used for, and get some ideas of actual construction costs. And based off of that, we could negotiate a contract to design those or that complex.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve design services from Fluger? Oh, you have a question. Oh, and Associates for a Seguin ISD baseball and softball complex. Mr. Jenkins.
Madam President, I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Mr. Jenkins, a second from Ms. Duncan. No further discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand.
Yes.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. 7. All right, you're still on the hot seat. So item 8H is the adoption of the resolution for the assignment, not reassignment, but assignment of fund
Correct.
balance. We're not
Yes,
moving
so
it, we're assigning
I apologize, didn't mean.
We're not moving it, we're assigning it, correct? Moving it from fund balance, we're proposing to move it from.
We would technically be moving it from unassigned fund balance into assigned fund balance. And the reason you do that is so that it earmarks those funds for the specific purposes as designated on the resolution. So you won't have any offsetting revenue for this. You'll take the money out of fund balance and you'll use it for the specific line items that are attached here to the tune of $230,000. So in summary, as was discussed at the board workshop recently on the transition plan for operations at Seguin, the maintenance and operations department has, and it's a collaborative effort because there's also technology involved and food service has been involved. So all the cost for the entire transition, we're looking at approximately $450,377. Believe it or not, we try to go to that level of detail. But nonetheless, we've identified as much as we think we reasonably can, both in terms of fitting the criteria and having the available funds left over in the QZAP funds, Qualified Zone Academy Bond. The restriction that is placed on those proceeds is that it has to be for specific types of things that would be used at a campus that serves free and reduced students. So economically disadvantaged, but they really go actually through the free and reduced program is how they base the criteria for whatever reason. So Seguin would fit that bill, and we can use the proceeds. We've estimated that at this point in time, we would be able to use about $219,861 of QZAP proceeds. So the balance is how we're getting to the amount that we need from assign from fund balance. We have also included a contingency of $15,000. I don't anticipate that we would need that based off of conversations I've had with Mr. Desania, but it's a whole lot better to have a small contingency in there and not have to come back to the board or hit the local budget for it. So that's why that's there.
And I just want to say that when you look at that $450,000 overall to improve the learning environment for that number of students, anywhere from 150 to 200, when you combine the programs of 18 plus, the MBLC program and the alternative program, I think that's a rather small price to pay to not only for our students, but to also improve the conditions specifically more so for the staff at Burgess, who I think have felt like they've been neglected for some time.
Any further questions? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the resolution for the assignment of fund balance as presented? I have a motion from Ms. Crittenden. Do I hear a second? Second from Ms. Moreno. Further discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign, motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Mr. All right, moving on to item 8I, which is termination of financial advisory contract with Capital Markets.
So Seguin ISD has contracted with Frost Capital Markets for financial advisory services for several years now. And we've enjoyed that relationship very much. And it's anticipated that the district will very likely continue to have a working relationship with Frost Capital Markets. More on that, it would be in a different scope. We can discuss that at another time when we bring that forward. But for financial advisory services, we're recommending a termination of this contract. And the reason for that is because the individual that we have worked with at Frost Capital Markets during the course of that time has been Victor Quiroga. And recently he's presented at various meetings to you and others. And he's done a lot of work with regard, even just with this bond issue, let alone so many others. More on that in the next item. So we are recommending at this point, he has moved to another company. We're recommending changing to that other company in order to maintain that relationship primarily with him. Now you may be asking, how can we do this? And what's the legal guideline that gives us that opportunity? Board policy dictates that that's acceptable because this is a professional service. So an RFQ is not required, an RFP is not required. Under professional services for things like an architect, financial accountant, a CPA, or a financial agent, those types of things can be deemed professional services, and you do not have to go for an RFQ for that. And so in this case, that's what we're recommending.
Do legal services fall under that?
Yes, absolutely.
Any questions? No. Do I hear a motion to approve the termination of financial advisory contract with Frost Capital Markets? A motion from Mr. Guerra. Do I hear a second? A second from Mr. Amador. No questions? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried 7-0. All right, moving on to the related one, which is item 8J, consideration and approval of financial advisory contract with Specialized Public Financing.
So hopefully you've had an opportunity to read through the wording of the rationale here. We tried to give, in a somewhat concise way, an overview of the benefit that Mr. Quiroga and his staff have brought to the district over the years, and more than justifies the reason for the recommendation. And if it makes you feel even more confident, many districts use and have used his services for years and are making this very same change at this point in time.
Since 2006, that's still quite a while, so
Mm-hmm.
it's a very long positive record. Any questions or discussion? No? So do I hear a motion to approve financial advisory contract with Specialized Public Finance? Motion from Mr. Amador, a second from Ms. Duncan. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Earlier when you asked if someone might like to go home,
I know.
I said they would like to go home.
All right, and then I guess our last item is 8K, which is the approval of a bond oversight committee. Dr. Gutierrez.
Trustees, as you can see this evening, as we have discussed at a previous board workshop, we are looking to have a committee in place. If this, well, I'm going to be optimistic, once this bond is approved on May the 4th, we'd like to have a bond oversight committee in place. We had previously discussed that there would be a set number of trustee nominated community members and a set number of superintendent nominated community members. However, I'd like to make a recommended change for that to be a range of 12 to 14 trustee nominated community members and 2 to 4 superintendent nominated community members, just to make sure that we have that 20 to 22 number of individuals serving on that committee, just because if for some reason in one of a trustee's boundaries we can only secure one, then we'd be okay by myself having the opportunity to secure 3 or 4 constituents to serve. But there are individuals who are eager and willing to serve on this committee, and they're very excited about this opportunity, as am I, to try something new to bring to Seguin as far as a new level of accountability. So this evening, we're only asking for the approval of the committee itself. Once we finalize all of the individual members, we will certainly give you all an updated list of those 20 to 22 committee members.
Madam President, I
Yes,
move
ma'am.
to approve the Bond Oversight Committee.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the Bond Oversight Committee. A second from Mr. Jenkins. Motions from Ms. Duncan. Second is from Mr. Jenkins. Discussion? No? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. We're all optimistic. And pass 7-0. Before we leave, is anybody have any board comments or requests for staff? Have we had enough experience with WowWee to know how we're doing? So
We-
get it.
We can give you an update. I think we have some really exciting information to share on attendance, and we've received some very positive feedback from principals as of late too.
Okay. As I was reading through all these policy changes, it's just maddening to me, all these letters, DEC, CEU, CBD, I don't know if it would be worth the time for someone to sit down with us, maybe in a workshop setting, sometime after we get a new notebook with all the policy in it, and just kind of explain to us what all those numbers mean, or letters mean rather, if they have meaning, Mr. Cantu. I don't know if they have meaning.
There's definitely a glossary, and we can sit through it and make sense of it.
Okay.
How the letters are assigned, we can find that out too.
Okay.
Is there an app for that?
Is there?
There is, and there's actually some training because when I took on this position, I said I need to become familiar with it myself, and so I went to TASB, and there's a couple of videos that were really helpful.
Oh,
So
are those available online?
They are available online, so we can do a combination of both.
If you could share those with us maybe in advance. Yeah, it's kind of maddening as you're diving through all those pages. Any other? Yes, ma'am.
I'd really like to see us get seriously active about doing an online registration
For elementary students. Can we look into that?
I mean, our kids are so tech savvy that they could probably help out with their parents, helping them sign in and register and stuff.
I guess part of the issue may be that some of the parents don't have access to technology at home, so we could still have the library, or you could still have the walk-in door and register as well. You think everybody has a phone? Everybody has a phone.
We'll certainly have some discussion as my team circles up and just give you all an update on that progress.
It's been a while since I had to do it, but I know it was maddening when I had to do it. I'm sure it's still the same. Looking through these, yeah.
A lot of papers.
A lot of papers. All right, if there are no further requests or comments, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Mr. Mamador has made a motion to adjourn. Second, all in favor? Everybody's ready to go home. They didn't really vote, but we're going to adjourn it. 9:32.
Who was the second?
Linda.